All right, everybody, we are back. It's football season. You're right here on Fresh Takes Podcast, Russo and Felice. I am Paul Russo. Across from me, as always, early and late all at the same time today, man, myth, legend himself, Nick Felice. Nick, how you doing today? How you feeling? You're looking good over there.
Thanks, Paul.
The blue's a nice color on you, I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, it's a special 8:30 p.m. edition of the Fresh Takes.
Meant to start half hour ago.
Yeah, we were planning on starting a little early, but I do apologize for being a little late. But here we are, and no more breaks between podcasts anymore because it is football season.
Mm-hmm.
I would say, since we've been doing this for a few years now, I would say football season is the best podcast that we come up with. So, because we make our picks, we do our things, we try to get some guest stars on, because there's a lot of football fans in the area that we know of. So, should be good. I'm looking forward to it. But Paul, I like your outfit you have on today, because you got your Syracuse hat and you got your Yankees shirt, and you're one of a kind.
Thank you.
People who might not know this, but Paul, I want you to say to the camera with a straight face, I am a Syracuse fan and I am a Yankees fan, and I do not like Carmelo Anthony. I do not like Derek Jeter.
Oh, we've been over this before, yeah. I am Paul Russo. I'm a Syracuse Orange fan, New York Yankee fan, proud Syracuse Orange season football ticket holder. I do not like Carmelo Anthony, and I do not like Derek Jeter.
And you've got to be the only Yankees-Syracuse fan in the history of the world to say that.
Yeah.
You got to be.
I hope so.
Because those guys have only been around a while now.
Only been around combined for, the past few years, so.
That's impressive. It just blows my mind that that's actually a thing.
So, obviously, today we got two topics, but they're going to take up pretty much all of our talking time, obviously. We're going to do fantasy preview first, give you people what you want. Then we'll do our college football preview, even though week 0 already technically happened with 6 games.
I'm a big fan of week 0.
Now, Nick, I do want to discuss this for a couple minutes because it's by far taken over the sports talking standpoint here the past day. When I sent Jim the topics, this was not obviously a big thing. I didn't think it was going to be big enough to even really discuss, but this thing has taken off on legs the past 24 hours. So, I'll start here. Have you heard about the high school football situation involving IMG Academy, which is probably the most well-known high school program really in America at this point, and this, I will call it the alleged high school of Bishop Sycamore.
I have heard the story. Yes, I have not looked into it as much. But
this is absolutely crazy to me, right? So, obviously, I don't want to spend too much time on giving what we got, but this got to be one of the craziest things I've ever heard of. The fact that they were able to get this completely played off, and the key part here is, as much as I love to probably go at ESPN on this situation, it's not ESPN's fault. Their high school games, they pretty much contract out with a third-party marketing company to get the games pretty much on TV. They obviously at that point handle production and all that, but this third party is the one who brings the teams to ESPN.
Yeah.
So I'm just completely amazed that this, called a motley crew of individuals, were able to pull this off.
Yeah, I mean, it was. I mean, ESPN should have done their homework a little bit, but. It worked. It worked. They got on ESPN. It was a great game.
Okay.
58-0, I believe it was.
Correct.
Maybe Miners can pull it off.
What's funny about this is I call friend of the show Nick Tabar. Me and you know him, obviously. Listener of our podcast, good friend of mine, good friend of yours now by proxy. His alma mater for high school, St. Edward in Ohio, Cleveland, which I'm a proud associate, whatever alumni, fake alumni of them. They're scheduled to play Bishop Sycamore at the end of September.
Really?
Yeah. So nobody quite knows what's going on. They're not recognized, obviously, by the Ohio State High School athletic I know here it's obviously New York State Public High School Foundation, whatever. I forget Ohio's technical thing, but pretty much, comes out the OSHA. So, but they're not recognized by them. So it's really, nobody knows what's quite going on at this point. They have fired their head coach, who was wanted on a couple of warrants for fraud. Really? So, this is definitely, it's crazy to me how this has happened.
Yeah.
And they played that Friday night before in Pittsburgh. So I don't know what's going on with them. It's got to be. I
haven't seen any highlights of the game.
Allegedly, their quarterback is like a failed quarterback at the University of Maryland as well. Allegedly.
Really? They're not even high school students?
Some of them aren't. Some of them are apparently 23 years old.
Wow. And
they got smoked by IMG.
It was all just to get on TV.
Pretty much. That's the way I don't know if it's pretty much on TV. This is apparently I don't know what the proper we call it.
Is this high school real?
No. Well, no. A few years ago, there was a school that was pretty much under the same guide and leadership as they are now. That was pretty much a fake school as well. So nobody knows what the hell's going on with this. There's allegedly a college tied to them as well. That's actually probably a fake college too. This is a whole crazy web of things that people have uncovered now. So absolutely nuts.
Have we heard anything from the players?
Some of the former players have spoken out. They have played with this group before. Pretty much stories of bounce checks, multiple, we talk about how bad, say, the minor league baseball situation is with housing. Apparently upwards of 15 players sleeping in a hotel room with this, on floors and such. Them stealing food from Walmart in order just to survive. So it's a crazy situation being played out right now.
What did IMG say?
It sounded like they didn't really. No, they haven't said anything, which is probably smart on their part at this point. So, why would you? You played your opponent and you just smoke them. If I'm IMG, I'm doing the smart move here by just keeping quiet for the most part and going on. Crazy. Obviously, though, Nick, we stick with our football theme, starting with our 2 full weeks of previews. Pretty much.
You are on the clock.
Drafts are underway for fantasy football. Excited to always do this. Fantasy is one of our favorite things about football at this point, Nick. We're happy to always give you our opinions on this. So here we go. It's our fantasy football preview. Interesting day today. Let's actually start here for a little bit. Patriots obviously made a little noise here. They released a guy in Cam Newton who at one point, top fantasy quarterback for probably 2 or 3 years when you look at type of quarterback that I always preferred drafting, right? The dual threat that can run and throw the ball. Where does he go? This now throws a wrinkle into this as well. Obviously, we got Deshaun Watson news going on. What ends up with him, who knows? So let's start here, Nick. It appears as though, to a degree, I don't think it's going to really change too much how we actually look at things, but the quarterback play this year might be more important than it usually has been the past couple years. That being said, I still think you obviously take a running back before. I still think you obviously take a wideout before. Depending upon where you're at tight end-wise, probably tight end before as well at this point. Let's start at the quarterback. How important is it this year to get a de facto top 10 quarterback? Because to me, there are going to be a couple sleepers. There always are. But there's going to be, I think, definite must-have people for sure this year at quarterback.
Yes, absolutely. My draft strategy, personally, I would not touch a quarterback till the 4th or 5th round. I'm just trying to load up on my other positions first. Doing that doesn't mean, most likely, everyone's not going to take that strategy. So when you do this strategy of not taking a quarterback till the 4th or 5th round, you're not getting Patrick Mahomes. Right now, you're not getting Josh Allen.
Mm-hmm.
And, I think those guys, in my opinion, they're the 2 best fantasy quarterbacks. Just the way They throw the ball. They put up numbers. A guy that's kind of like, not a winner in the NFL, in my opinion, but is a great fantasy quarterback, is Dak Prescott.
You're finally coming around with me on Dak.
Fantasy, yes. The Cowboys, no. He puts up great numbers against terrible teams, and he plays in a terrible division. So a division that might get better, but I don't know. And
Washington Giants for now.
One quarterback I love in fantasy. He's the number one garbage guy in the history of garbage quarterbacks. That is Jameis Winston of the Saints. I would say he's my sleeper quarterback just because of the garbage points that he puts up. But but drafts the first round, I would say I think this might be the first year in a while that you don't know who the first overall pick's going to be. You had that one year, it was Todd Gurley. You had the Adrian Peterson.
Free agent Todd Gurley in real life.
You have the Adrian Peterson years. You had he could be at this year, Christian McCaffrey. That one year, it was Christian McCaffrey. That one year was Antonio Brown over Odell. Odell was always going second, and Barkley was always going second to McCaffrey. But this year, it could be anybody, especially in a non-PPR to a PPR league. Non-PPR, it better be Derrick Henry, number one overall pick, because of the points he puts up. That's what hurts him in PPR, because he doesn't catch the passes, even though I think he can. Tennessee just doesn't. Their offense just doesn't work that way towards him.
Might have to this year, though.
Yeah, they might have to. But what we've seen so far going into this draft, though, non-PPR, I would say Derrick Henry should be the number one overall pick. PPR, I think, my opinion, number one overall pick, I think, is either Dalvin Cook or Christian McCaffrey. I'm leaning towards more Dalvin Cook because I'm a big fan. But then there's the guys, the Barkleys, the Elliots, the Kamaras. I know I'm missing some other people, but I would stay away from Kamara just because of Winston becoming the quarterback. Because now you got Taysom Hill in that Wildcat formation, whatever, that wild card, I guess. He could play any position, and he will steal a lot of touchdowns away from Kamara, which when him in that position, you're not going to see Kamara get the 7 touchdown games like we saw last year that he definitely could do. But I'm not saying don't take Kamara in the first round. Kamara should still go in the first round because he's that good of a running back. But I would take those other guys before him. You could argue that running back is as deep. It was deep last year. Now it's even deeper this year.
I was about to say, because I have a completely different hypothetical number one that I would take.
I mean, you got Aaron Jones. I'm a big Antonio Gibson fan.
Gibby.
Josh Jacobs even going under the radar this year. There's Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Everyone was high on him last year. People maybe, bring him back. James Robinson with that Clemson running back going down, the rookie there. James Robinson had a really good year. I would not sleep on him. Maybe even Joe Mixon. I know there's more. I'm just trying to get off the top of my head.
You want me to say who I would take number one because it is a running back?
I forgot it.
Jonathan Taylor.
Yeah, Jonathan Taylor's great.
He's who I would probably take number one this year.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think.
Especially given the quarterback situation in Indianapolis. I think that plays big into that. So,
Jonathan Taylor, just going through divisions. Maybe a big year out of Miles Sanders. There's a lot of running backs you could take chances on.
I don't know if I take a chance on Miles Sanders in your top one pick. But.
No. This is not the early round. This is later in the draft, Miles Sanders. But, I think the first 6 picks should be first 5 or 6 picks should be running backs. Some people are taking Travis Kelce before receiver like Stephon Diggs or Devontae Adams. Tight end's tough because you got Travis Kelce, you got Darren Waller, and you got George Kittle. Those, I think, are by far the 3 best tight ends in the league. Not saying these other tight ends, because most leagues have a tight end spot. I know a lot of people just go to that tight end receiver spot. But those 3 are the top. But there's some sleepers out there. I'll give away one sleeper, with Aaron Rodgers as the quarterback, I like Robert Tonyan. He loves to throw him the ball. That's my sleeper at tight end. Receiver, Devontae Adams and Stephon Diggs, just because of the way, Aaron Rodgers throws the ball. Josh Allen loves Stephon Diggs. Receiver is not like, there's a lot of good top-heavy running backs.
I think the receiver rush in most leagues, in my opinion, will probably happen in rounds 2 and 3. Mm-hmm. In my opinion. But that's also dependent on how your round 1 goes because, like you said, obviously with the running backs being top-heavy, actually it's not so much running backs, rather, but tight ends being extremely top-heavy where, who takes who where is going to be very dependent on when that rush starts.
Receivers is deep. Like I said, running backs deep. Receivers deep in the sense that there's like 30 like just average receivers that can find a spot on your starting lineup on a Sunday. You're going from I'm just throwing off names at the top of my head, like a Brandon Ayuk or a lot of people are high on CeeDee Lamb. Then there's the thing with Julio this year. He's playing with A.J. Brown, Calvin Ridley. Then there's the Tyler Lockett playing behind DK Metcalf. I'd stay away from Kenny Galladay. Injuries could be a problem with him. Daniel Jones is questions around him. I don't know. As a Giants fan, still not high on Daniel Jones, but it's just there's a lot of receivers out there. I would like to say A.J. Green's a sleeper with Arizona now, and then DeAndre Hopkins is good. He's one of the best receivers in the game, but there's just games where Hopkins just doesn't do a lot. You want a star receiver, you go Devontae Adams. That guy is as consistent as you can be as a receiver, and he just puts up great numbers. But I had Stephon Diggs last year. I loved him. Got to the finals with Stephon Diggs. PPR, maybe a Juju Smith-Schuster. Doesn't give you a lot of yards, but he gets you a lot of catches, and those can add up in a PPR league. Receiver is deeper than running back, but running back's got a lot more top-heavy players. I mean, you can throw, and like I say his name, Antonio Gibson is one of your top running backs, and you could be pretty comfortable with him.
Well, Antonio Gibson is running back 11 on the power rankings.
Yeah, that's like what makes it difficult is when you're like a 12-man league, a 12 or 10-man league. You get that 9th or 10th pick in a 10-man league, or the 11th or 12th pick in a 12-man league. You're left with a big decision because a lot of the best running backs are gone, and then you're especially if you get the snake around. You get the 2 picks in a row there. And if there's a chance, Devontae Adams and Stephon Diggs there, you'd be tempted to take it, obviously. But you're going to miss out because then more of the top-heavy running backs will be gone. The Gibsons will be gone. Jonathan Taylor might be gone before
your Montgomerys, yeah.
Yeah. Montgomery's good because he's like the guy there in Chicago. It's really tough when you get those late first round picks, but it puts a lot of pressure on you. You gotta make decisions. I mean, you could lose in those first round. I mean, obviously, people who win their leagues is what they do at the end of drafts and those sleeper picks. You get those sleepers, but you could lose your league in that first round. Take a Saquon Barkley, for example. He's been injured. It feels like it's been years since we see Saquon Barkley play a game.
Yeah.
And you take him as your star. Say you get him like the 7th pick. That's your star of your team. There's a very good chance he might not be the same player. He might get injured again, and then you're screwed. Your first round pick's really done nothing for you this year. Then there's Austin Eckler as well. Austin Eckler, Justin Herbert, Keenan Allen, the Chargers. They had a really good electric offense last year. Interesting to see what they do. I think a quarterback to look out for is Matthew Stafford. They say he's finally got a good team. He definitely had Megatron back in the day, and he put up some good numbers. We'll see what he does with the Rams. I think that's one person to look out for. Obviously, say you haven't taken a quarterback for a while. Let me get your thoughts on this, Paul. Say you haven't taken a quarterback. You got like every position besides kicker. You got them all, and you just haven't taken a quarterback. Your draft hasn't worked out that way. And Trevor Lawrence is there. What would you think about playing Trevor Lawrence?
I guess it kind of depends who else is around at that point, in theory. Not a big fan of that Jacksonville line. Obviously, this part of it we will get into next week during our NFL preview, which is the whole show, which, hey, tune in for that. I just that Jacksonville line's very questionable. You look at his weapons around him, it's his best skill guys probably collectively is that running back core, even without NTN, because you have Robinson, you have Carlos Hyde, obviously you have Shark, but I don't know. I don't know if that line will do good. And I think, just judging by some of the stuff this preseason and stuff kind of towards the end of the year last year, stock's kind of gone down a little bit, I think, probably for Trevor. I think it depends who's still there. In my mind, if he's still there, I'd rather take a run on a Jameis Winston than I would a Trevor Lawrence at that point. I think the situation for Jameis is a bit better, and you know what his numbers can do. Which obviously with Jameis, it's very high risk, high reward, but I'd rather run that risk with that known commodity than an unknown commodity. That being said, I'm taking a quick look at the board, quarterback-wise.
Where do you have Lamar Jackson?
So ESPN has Lamar at quarterback 5. I think that's a little bit high, but it's pretty much right where I'd expect him to be.
Last year, he was right there with Mahomes, people are saying.
Yeah.
And he didn't live up to that.
I think we kind of know for sure what Lamar is. Not a knock against Lamar. I think we just know what he is at this point. Predominantly, you're going to get your points on the ground with him, more or less. Obviously, he can throw the deep ball, which allows for that big play. If you're in a league, I know you're in one with that big play bonus in effect. That obviously is where that could kick in. But for the most part, when he throws the ball, it's a lot of, that dump and shoot type stuff. I think this will be interesting. I think that Baltimore team collectively is probably the best it's been in about a handful of years. Even that year, second year rather, where they made that playoff run. I think collectively this is probably a better team than there. It's interesting, obviously, with Dobbins going down likely for the season. I don't think they've made anything official there yet. How that kind of wrinkles into the fantasy perspectives offensively. Their defense is back to form. I think they're a top 5 defense in fantasy right now, ranked wise, and they are. They're in ESPN's. They are defense special teams 3. So, I think Lamar's probably just about. I probably would have him a little bit lower, but that 5th range is probably right where he should be. Just he's a little bit of like that peak Cam Newton light. I think Lamar will be able to sustain a little bit longer than that in that regard, speaking. So, right about where I expect him to be.
What about, who do you take first? Kansas City electric offense. Do you take Travis Kelce first or Tyreek Hill?
So, it's weird. So, I feel like we're at a crossroads with both of them. I don't think many people... I need to phrase this right, because I think people know this, but they don't realize this. Kelce's in his 30s. And we know how football players tend to be. I'm going to have to say tend, right, because Tom Brady is just being an ageless wonder at this point. But we know their value as, the age catches up. So it's going to be interesting. Obviously, Kelce, we're finally starting to see some injuries catch up to him in a couple different spots every now and then. That being said, I still think he's probably tight end 1 this year. The Tyreek thing is interesting because the NFL is weird in this regard. Every time I think you start double coveraging a guy, they don't. But Tyreek is getting to a similar spot where Kelsey. Obviously, Tyreek's, I think, like a handful of years younger. I think Tyreek's our age, kind of, in that sense. I think he might be a year older than me. But, we saw last year again where he got dinged up with an injury and he didn't look the same when he came back into that playoff game. So, I think I'd go Kelsey. If I had to pick between the two, if I say I'm sitting there with pick at 7 or 8 or something like that, and my two top options, right, are Kelsey or Tyreek, I think I'd just go Kelsey because obviously, like we've said, the tight end position is so top heavy that you can't pass up an opportunity to take Kelsey, Kittle, one of those guys. So I'd go Kelsey. It's a tough decision in my mind, but I think when push comes to shove, I'd take Kelsey.
Now, is Joe Burrow back?
The way it sounds. I know what your question's going to be, and my answer to that is no until they improve that offensive line. Because he's still just going to be a human meat shield back there, taking hits.
Well, my question was going to be, do you take him over Justin Herbert?
No, absolutely not.
Justin Herbert's good.
That being said, he's not an avoid guy for me, but he's very much so a tread water lightly guy with me because quarterbacks, again, I have to say the word tend here because Mahomes didn't, Lamar really didn't, recent quarterbacks really have not done this, but there tends to be a little bit of that sophomore slump, the second-year slump type deal. You look at quarterbacks in that range with him, right? Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson, Herbert. If any one of those guys are up, I'm probably taking Russell out of those like 3, for instance, right? Then probably even Rodgers, and then probably Herbert. That being said, I still think Herbert's probably going to be a starter in most people's leagues. Base it off of even, say, for that 12 number you brought up earlier, I think in a 12-man league, Herbert's still got to be a starter. At least for the first couple weeks. I'm all over. Like I said, I think like I said, he's on an avoid in a sense. I wouldn't take him if he's there on the board. Just one I would tread water lightly with.
One thing I always notice with a fantasy draft is once that first defense goes,
there's a rush.
Yeah, people start panicking and they go for the defenses. But the real question is, when do you take a defense?
I think it just depends where you're at with your own draft at that point. Obviously, defense and special teams have been playing, I think, a bigger role the past couple of years than we tend to think. I think they're starting to creep back up the board a little bit than in years past.
And defense is one of those things where it's opinion-based because you could have the top defense.
Not to interrupt, but just ESPN's top 300 rankings this year. Your first defense, which is the Buccaneers defense, they're their DST1, 169 out of the 300.
Wow.
So they're creeping back up the board like they were probably about when we first got into fantasy about 10 years ago, where it was like, hey, you got to get the Steelers defense and Ravens defense or else you're screwed.
And then there was that one year, Jacksonville's defense was
so,
crazy.
But within that block, right, it's literally 169 through 180 on ESPN's power rankings are all the top 12 defenses.
Really?
Yes. So I think that says a lot about where you're going to see a lot of people drafting. That's probably in most people's drafts somewhere in the, well, in theory, right? It gets you to about the 12th-ish round, give or take, probably by the time you start seeing the first one go. But I wouldn't be surprised to probably see somebody take one in the 9 to 10 range and just start that avalanche. That tends to happen in the drafts we've done the past couple of years anyway.
Yeah, it's,
And I wouldn't be surprised if that's the case in a lot of people's drafts.
A lot of the time the best defense, or not the best, but top 5 Sometimes he's one you pick up in the middle of the season because the team is playing better than we expected.
That's the way. Think about the way Washington was last year. That's the way Washington ended up being, and now they are the 4th rated DST for ESPN.
Yeah, you gonna try to take them?
I don't know.
Wait, when is your first draft?
I will be actually missing my first 2 because I'll be out of town, and I don't plan on sitting on a computer for 2 hours while on vacation. So,
are you gonna be able to draft any?
I may be able to sneak away and just do a couple on my phone, but
okay.
Yeah. But yeah, first 2 are Saturday, Sunday, I think. So
nice. I did mine first one yesterday, and I got a couple more coming up this week. So, still prepare. Kickers, just a real quick on the kickers.
Yep.
Tuck we trust.
Well, just another funny aspect to the ESPN rankings, but before, starting to interrupt
I'm always big Justin Tucker guy.
Harrison Butker's your kicker number 1 in ESPN. What's funny about the kickers is the first 12 literally run off after the first 12 defenses. So your first kicker in ESPN's mind is the 181st best player / whatever you want to call it. And it runs all the way through kicker number 12, Matt Prater, at 192. So
I think
kickers are another thing, though. Although you tend to see a lot of people still wait until their last pick to take the kicker, or second to last.
I think if I don't get the kicker I really want, I'll wait till the last round and just get some kicker. But
there are a lot like defense and special teams now again, where it's just you can find one on the waiver wire of who's hot and just run with them.
But first overall pick, Paul, non-PPR and PPR, who would you take? I already told you mine. I take Henry non-PPR, and I take Dalvin Cook PPR.
I think it's tough because there are 2 guys to me that are just getting incredibly slept out again. One of them, I brought him up earlier, Jonathan Taylor. The other one is Nick Chubb. Yeah. I don't understand, again, being slept out like that. I think people still probably take into effect maybe a little bit of having Kareem Hunt in there, but I think he's getting phased out a little bit more and more. But if I'm sitting number 1, if I actually have to look at this where I'm sitting number 1 in the draft, I'm probably honestly taking Dalvin Cook.
In both type leagues.
Yep. He's going to be predominantly their number 1 now from here on out. Probably get a little bit of Ham in there every now and then, but and Madison. But for what Dalvin's been able to do, he had a very good bounce back year last year. First pretty much full year healthy he's had in the NFL in such a wacky year. But I'd go Dalvin Cook if I had the number 1 pick.
It's just crazy.
PPR, non-PPR.
It's just crazy. All the other fantasies, the first overall pick is pretty obvious, I would say, because next year basketball, it's going to be Nikola Jokic.
Mm-hmm.
I say in baseball, it's going to be Shohei Ohtani. Mm-hmm. And hockey, you can look at Drysdale, but I still think it's Stamkos all the way. But football used to be like who it is, but there's a lot of people taking McCaffrey. There's a lot of people taking Dalvin Cook. There's a lot of people that would take Derrick Henry, But
what? So I'll ask you then. I'm enjoying this game. Give me your one guy that you think you should avoid at all costs. Because I have 2 big ones that stick out to me. And one of them is going to be an extremely hot take, in my opinion.
Really?
Yep.
All costs.
Yep.
To avoid away.
Mm-hmm.
I will say, I have a guy in my mind. I'm just trying to think if there's another one.
Can I give you one of my 2 while you think? Okay. My first one, I don't think to me it's all that controversial, but ESPN has them as their tight end 6, which is a little bit surprising. Kyle Pitts, tight end for Atlanta.
You want him?
No. I'm avoiding.
Yeah.
That offense is very questionable at this point. This is, again, a pick that I don't necessarily, going back to the draft, I didn't necessarily disagree with, but I didn't think really answered any of their actual problems that they had. And that goes back to, and unfortunately, Matt Ryan. He's not getting any younger. Clearly, I think is showing signs that he is slowing down. And what is their running back game at this situation? What is their offensive line situation at this point? And the better question to me is, because this is the way you use tight ends now, Kyle Pitts is already your number 2 just guy in general that you're going to be passing the ball to. I don't like the situation for him. I wouldn't take him. I would avoid him at all costs.
I mean, he's not as high as obviously as Clyde Edwards-Helaire was last year, but it's kind of in a similar situation. They're expecting so much out of him, and he could be a bust. Because let's face it, Clyde Edwards-Helaire was a bust last year. For what?
Before he got hurt, he wasn't. I had the key. I'll speak from this as having him in 2 of my 3 teams. Before he got hurt, absolutely not a bust. I mean, he was averaging top 10 points running back wise each week. And then everything kind of changed dynamically when injuries got piled up, not just to him, but everybody around him. So,
but to answer your question, if you're a new fantasy, you're just playing for the very first time, stay away from Tom Brady. Stay away from Rob Gronkowski. There's better quarterbacks out there.
Okay, yeah, and that's understandable, yeah.
If you're new to the game, you're thinking, let me get Tom Brady. No, Paul's mentioned it. Justin Herbert, you could be way better. You'll be fine with him, fantasy-wise. Guy I would stay away from, and you mentioned Nick Chubb, and this is a reason for it. I would stay away from Austin Eckler.
All right.
For how high people have him.
Yeah.
People have him pretty high and taking him over a Nick Chubb. Taking him over an Aaron Jones. These guys that I think are better than Austin Eckler. And Justin Herbert might be throwing the ball a little bit too much in Chargers for if you're an Eckler owner. So, me personally, if I took Eckler in the first round, which some people have, I think that would be a not a great first round pick in my opinion. So I would stay away from Austin Eckler.
Sorry for
that early.
You ready for my hot take one?
Yes.
So I didn't really think about this in essence until the other night watching some game highlights on NFL Network from the preseason. And this commenter brought up the fact that this team is in a very big make or break year. And the more I thought about it, they were right. We are now in year 3 of this individual.
If you say Devontae Adams, I'm going to come up and swing.
In year 3 of his coach. Now they've revamped his offense a little bit, so should be interesting. But, and it pains me to do this because he is the type of quarterback I prefer drafting. I would avoid Kyler Murray this year.
Really?
Even though he's quarterback 3, according to ESPN, I would avoid Kyler Murray.
I don't blame you.
The key part in this, obviously, is it's his make or break year. It really is. Unfortunately, his year 1 to year 2, there was no substantial change. For better or worse. I would rather see some sort of change, whether even if it is worse out of a quarterback in year 2 than see no change. Because what that tells me anyway, as both a fantasy owner and maybe even real life, is that, man, if this sucks if we've already just hit the ceiling. Think about what the Cardinals did to get him. Think about what, in all honesty, if you're Kyler, think about what you potentially gave up to come play football. So, that being said, I think I would avoid Kyler Murray. Hey, I usually have one of these that come back to backfire me every year. I'm not afraid to admit it. Maybe this is the one. Hey, I was the one who drafted Kyler Murray as my backup a couple of years ago, his rookie year, and it worked out well. He ended up starting by the end of the year over Drew Brees. So it's tough especially with guys in make or break years, because you don't know what you're really going to get from them, especially from like that mental side of the game, right? Such a big part of it that we are able to recognize now. So
they have Mahomes and Allen ahead of them. Is that it?
Mahomes and Allen.
Yeah, see, I would take Lamar Jackson over him.
I don't know if I do that, but that's my own personal preference. But I would run the risk on Dak over him.
Dak's a great fantasy quarterback.
I think I would for sure take.
He's just not going to.
I would for sure take Russell Wilson over Kyler.
Russell Wilson's good. He's a very good second half guy too. Seahawks are struggling that first half.
Now I know you brought up some advice about Tom Brady, and I just want to offer some words of advice as well. Please, people, don't just stash Trey Lance unless you're in some deep keeper league. I don't know what they're doing in San Francisco. I could care less overall because this is clearly just going to be an interesting tool out year to see what pieces are actually going to keep and what pieces they actually aren't. All that being said, they still might mess around and make the playoffs because they're just that good of a team still. But unless you're actually in a deep keeper league, don't bother trying to take Lance and get cute for whatever reason.
Yeah.
So,
I don't know what I'd think about it. I wouldn't take him either.
No.
But maybe down
that being said, I wouldn't take Garoppolo either. But
absolutely not. But, enjoy your drafts this week and a half. Mm-hmm. Busiest fantasy time of the year. And once it starts, it starts. You got everyone thinking they can win it this year. And then by week 4, that guy is 1-3, 0-4. Yep. They're thinking about next year already, but it's a good time.
Yeah.
One thing I do want to do this year, I want to try to do. Let's see how many people I can get. I want to do a last man standing. That would be cool.
Oh, I like last man standings.
Yeah, those are fun.
Yeah. I'd be in for that.
Yeah.
All right, our last topic, even though it was only 1-2, college football's back. Already missed week 0, but there was only 6 games, unless you're a Nebraska fan. Nebraska. You know who Nebraska plays this week, Nick?
No.
Fordham. Scott Frost might actually win a game this year.
Nebraska.
Mm-hmm. So, college football's back. Big, what we're going to call our opening weekend this weekend, week 1. Playoff implication games. Still only 4 playoff teams this year. But what a chaotic summer building around this. This is a fairly interesting college football year on multiple fronts. So we'll start, in my mind, on the obvious side, Nick, with all the conference, not realignments per se, but you have Texas and Oklahoma. They're going to go to the SEC here. You have the ACC, the Big Ten, and the Pac-12 forming an alliance together. What do you make of all this? Because this is going to change the landscape for sure. Obviously not immediately this year in theory, but starting really next year, I think you're going to start seeing some dynamics change, schedules shift. Yeah. I mean, it's pretty crazy. I think this has pretty big implications in my mind on your beloved Fighting Irish.
Yeah, as much as I want to start thinking ahead and all that change and stuff, I'm just going to enjoy this year, this college football season, this college basketball season, just to go back to normal, because what last year was absolutely insane what type of season that was. You got the Big Ten, the Pac-12 coming in at the end of the season in football. You got no non-conference in basketball, really. You got people not finishing conference schedules in basketball. It was just absolutely nuts. You had the whole tournament, one city. College football playoff at least was somewhat normal, but there was no fans. But it was a great way to start college football last week, week 0, Paul. I was watching it. I watched.
I was able to watch UCLA Hawaii.
Yep, I paid attention to 4 of the 5 games because I had a parlay going and I won. Won big. I watched that whole Nebraska Illinois game. I went with Illinois money line because Brent, whatever his name is, Brett Bielema.
Brett Bielema.
We both know his name real well.
I forgot that man existed, in all honesty.
Yes, and well, he's with the
hold
Giants.
on, Nick. You know how we have a tendency to break baseball news around here, so we have breaking baseball news. Not to interrupt.
Mike Trout's back.
Close. Following a positive test result, Red Sox shortstop Xander Bogaerts has been pulled from the game for a positive COVID test mid-game.
Really?
Yep.
I haven't seen that yet.
Yeah, this is, I think I've only seen it a couple times. Justin Turner in the World Series, but is this the first one this year?
I think so.
Wow.
That I'm aware of.
That's big implications for a struggling Red Sox team.
But my biggest takeaways from week 0 of college football is that UConn is terrible.
That's not a big takeaway.
New Mexico State is still terrible.
You aren't telling them anything new.
UTEP is good.
There's something new.
They ain't that good. They just played New Mexico State. I like that was following that game because I need to win my parlay off that game, and I was following some guys on Twitter who follow UTEP, and they're like, it looks like UTEP hasn't played a game in a year. It looks like New Mexico State hasn't played a game in 2 years. But I like week 0. I wish they would just call it week 1, but whatever. But college football is back tomorrow. There is a game.
Yep.
Forget who's playing.
Same.
Is it the MAC? Probably the MAC.
Oh, I love some action. I don't know. Let me check. I can look quick.
Yeah, there's a game on Wednesday. One game on Wednesday. There's a ton. There's like 15 games on Thursday. I think headlined by Ohio State.
Yeah, the Ohio State at
Minnesota. A little tempted by the Ohio State minus 14.
That's in my mind. That's a little bit of a trap.
Really, I think so.
To a degree.
One lock on Saturday. Saturday's got some great games. There's some on Friday, but Saturday's got some great games.
Saturday's the playoff implication day.
Obviously, headlined by Clemson, Georgia. Miami, Florida. I always feel for them. Pat's team. Man, they don't win the big games, though.
Your Wednesday matchup. The UAB at Jacksonville State.
That's not the MAC.
No. Quite the opposite. It's UAB Division I versus Division I AA Jacksonville State. So,
well, anyway, Miami, Florida's got a big game against Alabama in week 1. Miami, Florida never seems to win the big games besides Notre Dame.
Take them with the points, though.
Really? 18.5?
Neutral site.
I don't care. Alabama's going to wipe the floor.
Saban tends to pull in the reins a little bit when they pull ahead. That's all I'm saying.
All right.
Do what I do. Do what I did today, because I'm obviously leaving tomorrow morning. But do what I did today, Tuesday, whenever you're listening. I bought some points. I moved the line to plus 21 for Miami.
Okay. At least you went up.
By the way, most markets have that game at the spread at 19.5.
Really?
Yeah. So it must be that out here a lot of people are taking Miami.
I'm intrigued. Texas's first game. They play Louisiana.
Trap and a half.
Texas never seems to win.
It's a trap and a half. Horns down.
I do like Iowa.
Mm-hmm.
I like Iowa. They play
Indiana.
And then the other ranked teams is it's Wisconsin and Penn State.
You forgot about Cincinnati, but okay.
They're playing a ranked team?
No.
I'm talking about ranked teams versus ranked teams.
Apologies.
But Wisconsin plays Penn State. Wisconsin was so bad last year.
God, that's a trap game either way, dude. I do not trust either of those two teams.
Where is it? Where is it? Wisconsin?
It's at Wisconsin.
What's the line?
Give me a second to click on the game, please. It's not launching, but that's okay.
It's all right. I'm pretty sure Wisconsin's like 3 points favorite. But
Wisconsin minus 5.5.
I like Penn State. Take the plus 5.5.
I don't trust either of them. I just don't.
It's at noon. The game's at noon.
Yeah.
But what's cool about the first week is
big noon on Fox.
Yeah. What's cool about the first game of the week, the first week of the college football season? You have your Sunday and Monday games.
It's true.
Notre Dame, Florida State. Little nervous about that 7.5 for Notre Dame, but and then Louisville always seems to play on Monday.
Louisville will miss on Monday.
We'll see. You know, some great games. You really get to learn from some teams. Clemson, Georgia. Who do you like?
I like Clemson.
You excited to watch that with Jim Spina?
Yes, very excited. It's going to be fun. There was the idea of possibly going to that game, but we aren't. I don't think we are. So
it's going to be a great
because it is in Charlotte.
It's going to be a great game.
Yeah. So yeah, I did take Clemson. Georgia just I don't know. Maybe it's just we've been so used to this hyped up Georgia teams flopping the past couple of years, but like I'm really looking at it give me Clemson all day. Yeah. Like I don't know.
Is that Clemson quarterback still only 0-1?
DJ Ukulele
lost to Notre Dame. I think that's the only game he's ever started.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. Syracuse though, got to talk about them.
Boy, this is a trap game against Ohio.
What is it? Still -1?
As of today, it was 1.5.
You can't bet them at Del Lago, but -1.5. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Because I think they got a favorable first 4 weeks.
What?
What? They have Rutgers. They got Albany.
Have you not paid attention to Syracuse football? There's no such thing as a favorable schedule for them.
If they can't beat Albany.
They should
fire Dino right on the spot.
That part, you're right. That's an automatic.
What's the one after Albany?
Liberty.
Liberty's not bad.
Their first 4 weeks.
Did they lose to Liberty last year?
Their first 4 weeks at Ohio versus Rutgers versus Albany versus Liberty, all at the Dome.
And then it's the ACC schedule.
That Liberty game's a Friday night. Oh, crap!
Clemson's coming to Carolina.
I have to go from work to freaking Liberty. Oh.
Clemson's back at the Dome again this year, though.
Yeah, they are on a Friday night.
That should be a great game still. At least the one thing about Clemson, no matter how good or what type of team they have, they'll always draw well. And
we'll see this year. Oh, neat. We got pinned with a home game on Thanksgiving weekend. Great. All the students will be gone.
When's that? Saturday?
Saturday the 27th.
Pittsburgh?
Yep.
How many home games? 7?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yep. The only one I'll miss is the U-Albany game that I'm aware of. So.
Oh, that would be a great one.
Yeah.
They better win that.
Nick, you want my honest opinion of the Syracuse team? I have no idea. I don't like that we're doing the split quarterback thing. This has the makings of 4-8 written all over it.
Well, I think they can win the first 4 weeks.
I mean, it's possible that Ohio team's tough. That's a trap game.
What's the 5th game? What's the first ACC game?
At Florida State.
Well, we'll figure out what Florida State kind of team they got when Notre Dame plays.
Their run of ACC games is tough this year, in my opinion, but we'll see.
I'm saying it right now, Syracuse fans. You're going 4-0, and you guys are going to be on cloud. Is there a cloud 10? If there is,
it's cloud 44 in Syracuse, baby.
You're going to be on cloud 44 when you guys are 4-0. You know what? And if Florida State's not that good, I'll find out on Sunday. Mm-hmm. I'll give you a shot at 5-0. And then all of a sudden, we're talking a bowl this year. Pinstripe Bowl, lock it up.
It's the Gasparilla Bowl.
Did they change it?
No. Gasparilla is a different bowl.
No.
We aim for different bowls now, Nick.
The Pinstripe Bowl, but...
What about your Fighting Irish? How do you feel about them this year? A lot of Notre Dame fans around this area, so...
Yeah, and I learned a little bit after week 1. You know, we got the guy from Wisconsin coming in. I still think they got a good team. I mean, they get recruits. They don't get Alabama.
They get recruits.
They get good recruits, but Alabama, they get the best. But great thing about Notre Dame, they can keep going undefeated all they want. They'll be in the playoffs, so should be interesting. Uh-huh. I'm all for playoff expansion, obviously.
You just take a shot at the prediction meter.
Yep. Well, I think, what are we, 7? Say Georgia loses this week, we're going to pass them. So just got to pass a couple more, and we're in if we just stay undefeated. And we got a tough schedule, though. We do have a tough schedule. I think we play 3 out of 4 weeks at one point against ranked teams. We play UNC, who's ranked. We play USC, who's ranked. We play Cincinnati. We play Stanford at the end of the year. I don't think they're ranked, but we got a tough schedule. We don't play Clemson, don't play Syracuse this year, but there's some good games I'm looking forward to in the middle of the season, and it should be a good test. Florida State, we'll see what happens. Florida State hasn't been great lately, but just moving on from the Ian Book era, because I think if we had a quarterback last year, Ian Book was great. I think if we had a quarterback last year, we could have maybe done something, even though it's still. The defense still choked in the Alabama game. Alabama was just absolutely loaded last year. Like that was the best offense they ever had I've ever seen. But I don't know. It should be good. Looking forward to it.
All right.
Try to stay undefeated.
Sorry about that.
I bet 4 college football games already this season. 4-0.
Nice. Always good to start from the halfway. All right. Quick playoff predictions. What you got? Who are your 4?
Let me go.
Who are your 4?
Let me go bold. Number 1 seed, Alabama.
I don't care about the seeds. Okay, go ahead. I'm not going to stop you.
Number 2 seed, I'm going to go Texas A&M.
What?
Number 3 seed, I'm going to go Clemson. number 4 seed, Notre Dame. Alabama, Texas A&M. Final, Alabama wins. I feel disgusting saying that, but that's my prediction.
All right, I'm going Alabama. I'm going Clemson. This is where I think we finally have some weird nonsense happen, okay?
Florida.
No, Cincinnati. I'm doing it. Cincinnati. Give me Oregon.
All right.
Those are the 4.
Oregon, Fresno State should be a high-scoring game.
High-scoring affair, as they say. All right. As always, thank you, everybody, for watching. We appreciate it. We'll be back next week with our NFL preview show. Hopefully, we'll get some guests in here for you guys for that. We're working on that. Nick, who are you shouting out this week?
Well, the reason I was late, I went to dinner tonight with my Aunt Debbie Crisani and my Uncle Joe Crisani.
Great people.
Shouting them out. They're from Geneva. They live in Geneva. Ate at Beef and Brew.
How are they doing? I haven't seen them in a while.
They're good. I haven't seen them in a while either. That was nice to see them. Ate at Beef and Brew for the first time. I've been out in Beef and Brew, but never ate there. Pretty good in Geneva. So, shout out my aunt.
Did you get the beef or the brew?
I got the beef. I got a chicken wrap. Buffalo chicken wrap. With, the potato wedge fries.
You panicked into a corner and just...
the Parker's Classic. I don't think it's as good as Parker's though. The wrap. Wow. For the wrap. I've only had the wrap.
Wow.
I don't know anything else. But the wrap at Parker's pretty good.
What type of wrap?
Buffalo chicken.
No, I know that, but what type of, wrap was it?
Oh, I'm not a rap ass. I'm not a rapper. But
Word.
I don't know. It wasn't the same kind of bread as the one you get at Parker's. It was kind of more of it seemed kind of a veggie bread.
Okay.
Not sure. It might have been the same, just looked different.
Like a spinach one?
I don't think it was spinach, though. I think I would have tasted that.
All right, fair enough.
I'm not sure. I don't have an answer for you.
Okay. Get back to me on that.
I'm not a rapper.
All right, everybody. Thanks again for tuning in. We'll catch you next week. NFL preview show. Really, it's one of our favorite ones of the year, so we look forward to that. Like, share, subscribe, all the fun stuff that helps us and helps Remix One. Like I said, we'll catch you next week. Big NFL preview show.